Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we will be seeing how to render API data in a cascading dropdown. So I have got this API countries state city.n. I'll post the link in the description down below. So you can use this API in your projects. First, you got to do is request their API key, and when you click on this, you would get a Google form which you would need to fill, and they would send you the key within a day or two. So they have got like the all countries API. You can also get the all states API. You can get the states by country API. So also the cities. So today we will see how do we get states if we are selecting a country. So let's get ahead and start this. So in our project, you can see that I have already installed Axios and Bootstrap. So I would be using Axios for the API call and Bootstrap for the select. You can go for some like normal select. So let's get started. To install Axios, you need the command npm install Axios, and to install Bootstrap, you need the command npm install Bootstrap. And if you're using Bootstrap, don't forget to add the style sheet in the index.html file. So here we have got in our app.js, these are the previous one files that I made the videos on. So we will go ahead and in our source folder, we would make a file and I would name it as cascading, and I'm lazy, so cascading.js, and so this is our component. Now let's call this component in our app.js and let's save it and see. Yeah, so this is perfectly working. Now let's go ahead and try to do like try to write our cascading dropdown code. So here I'm just crossing all of these out. So the first thing is we want a dropdown where we will first get our countries. So for that, let's go ahead and sorry, not inside the div, you have to write it inside the function. So first we would need a variable. So I will be writing something as countries and set countries, and I'll be using use state hook to get the countries here. And so now we have our variable. What we got to do is we have to make our API call. So for the API call, I would be taking help of use effect hook. So now if we want to call the API just once, we will put an empty dependency array. And inside this use effect, you can directly call the API if you want the API to get loaded in the initial page load. But I will just put a function here because sometimes you might need that you perform the action on a CTA. So I'm just having a function here. Now let's write the function. So here I would do const fetch data, and I want it to be asynchronous for the API call. And inside this function, let's make the API call. So that would be const response. We would be awaiting for our get API call. Inside this, our URL will go, and here inside our headers, we would actually insert the API key. So let me go to the documentation and show you that they have actually given an example usage for JavaScript, PHP, Python. We are using Axios. So here you can copy the header section, and in the API key, you can put your own API key. So I'll just copy the header section, paste it here, and in the API key, generally you have to keep your API key in some env file because we want it protected, but I will just be pasting it here for ease of use because I'm just showing you. And let's actually get our API. So This one is the states within country. So first we would actually need a drop down for all the countries. So I'd be copying this countries one and I'll be pasting it here. So first we will be getting the countries. Now let's do console.log, and here we would see our response, how it is coming. And you can see we are getting the error that we have not imported Axios. So we will import Axios. Yeah. And now let's save this. Let's go ahead to our React app. And you can see that the data is coming. This is the response. And in our response, we have got config, data, headers, request. So inside the data, it's an array. Now we know that it's an array. So let's go ahead. And what we can do is for our, sorry, you have to do, we have to set countries to our response dot data. So in our countries, our data would come. So now what do we need to do is we have to show it in our select statement. So inside the div, we will bring the select from our Bootstrap. So this is the first select menu. So I would just take this one. You can take the select of your choice. I'll copy this code and I'll paste it over here. Now let's do some formatting, and as you can see, I actually do not need so many options. We would just need one option because we would be mapping over the country's value. So I'm keeping this first one because that would be kind of like default, so the value would be nothing, and I will actually disable it so that we cannot use this. And let me clear this one because I don't want any value. And above this, let me write something like select country. And now let's map through our countries. So this is the option that we need to map, the second one. So here I'll do like countries dot map. Your map function should return a value. So inside this, what I will do is index and value, and that should return. Never give curly braces here because you want to return the options. So I would copy this option, I would paste it here, and now we would see what do we need to give in the value and what do we need to give in, like what do we know to need to show in the drop down. So I'll go over to our React app, and here in the data you will see that when we would be mapping through the countries, the values would come as 0, 1, 2, 3. And if I am expanding this, then to get the name, we have to do something like, I have to do something like inside our countries. So this also I would need to put in curly braces. Do not forget to put it in curly braces, otherwise you would not see the value. So value, country's value, and that was in name. So in the value your 0, 1, 2, 3 would come, and countries, you know that the whole object is, the whole kind of like data that's in the form of an array is our countries. So countries 0th value first name. So there we go, and inside the value I would pass countries value and ISO2. You would come to know why I am passing the ISO2 later. So I would save this, and index is not defined. So that is because we have to close this bracket, and I think I have put an extra bracket here, so I would save it. And yeah, we are not getting the error. Let's go ahead and see. So I'll just clear the console, and you can see our countries are coming. So now I want that while I am selecting Afghanistan or like Albania, so while selecting that I should be getting the states drop down. Okay, so how do we do that? So now let's first see the country that we are selecting. For that we need to pass our on change. So while we are changing, we need to track it, right? So on change of event, and here we would be calling a function. So let the function be handle select, and in the handle select function I would be passing the event. Now let's write our handle select function. So const handle select, and here we would be getting our event. So here I would get a event, and if I tab it, now let's do console.log event dot target dot value to see if we are getting the value of the country, like whatever country we are choosing. So I'll choose. So yeah, we are getting the value that is AF, which was our ISO 2. So if we choose India, then yeah, now let's go ahead and do something with this value. So now I have got the value India. So when I am selecting India, I should be getting the states that are in India. So for that, what do we need to do is on change, we should be calling our states API, right? So we have the event.target.value, which is India, and now we should be calling the states API. So here I'll do fetch state, and inside this I would be passing India, which is event.target.value, right? So this is something that I am passing. Now let's write our fetch state. So here this would be fetch state. Now we would be calling the API here, so that would be async, and right here something like this, right? So instead of writing the whole thing, we could just copy paste this one, but in this case we would be passing our India value. So that would be event.target.value, but as I have already passed, so that one is our ISO 2, right? Now let's go ahead and copy this piece of code. I'll do Control C and paste it here. So I've copied this piece of code. So we are not exactly setting countries here, we will be setting states. So here I would be doing const states and set states and use state. Okay, and this one would be set states. Okay, and now we need to see the API for this one. Now I am passing the value ISO 2. Now let's go on to our documentation and see why I was passing the ISO 2 one. Now if you see the states by country API, you can see that we need to pass the ISO of the country to get the states of that particular country. So I would just copy this API and I would paste it here. Now to call this API, I would be using template literals, and now because our ISO is variable, so and this is the ISO 2 that we are passing, and it needs to be $sign. So this makes it a variable. Now in our states API, I have set the response, the data, and now we need to show that in our like in our return we need to return, like in our select we have to show that, right? So I'll just copy this and I'll paste this again. Instead of select country, we would now be doing select state. Okay, and what else do we need to change? Instead of countries, Okay, I'll just do control Z, and this one will select state. Now instead of countries, I'll just copy this and I'll do control D, and in all of this we need to put states, right? So now the states value would be mapped here. This on change function is something that I am not writing right now. I'll show you later. Now let me save this one, okay, and see what is happening. So let's go over to our React app, and you can see that this has come. Now let me clear the console, and in here if I choose Afghanistan, see we are getting the state. Now if you see there are like states. Now if we change our state to India, okay, so let's see, yeah, we are getting the states. Now let's go on to our VS Code and see, like if I am selecting something India, then let me select Meghalaya, but I am not keeping this value somewhere. So let's try to keep this value, let's try to display this value in case you need this value. So what we will do in this case, our on change will come, because when we are changing it we are passing that value in our event, and let it be handle select state, and in there we will be passing our event, okay. And I'll just write here const handle select state and an arrow function, and inside this we are passing our event. And if we need to show it, then let's take a variable, and this one will be the state we have selected. So selected state, you can also do this one for the country and show it. Set selected state, and if I am using use state, yeah, fine. So let me say, okay, so this one won't be an array, this one would just be a single value. So I'm just saving this one, and in our set select state I will do set selected state to the value, that is event dot target dot value. So on change in the select of state, we would be getting this value, that is event dot target dot value, and we are setting it. Now what you can do is you can use it somewhere, or you can just simply show it. So I'll just do like this, and I'll show selected, sorry. So this one would be inside our curly braces selected state, and I'll be saving it. Now let's go, and I'm choosing Afghanistan. So I should probably get the state that I'm selecting. Now you can see I'm getting the value over here, because that's the value, like ISO is what we are sending in the value. So what you can do is, instead of sending the ISO 2, you can just send the name, and you will see the name being displayed. So suppose I am choosing this, so you can choose this. Now there is one flaw in this, and that is if I am selecting India, you can you can see that none of this is being cleared, and it just automatically kind of like comes to India. So what you can do is, while you are selecting the country and everything, so in our handle select, what you can do is, once the selection has been done, like we are choosing the country, you can clear the state. So set states, this one, you can just clear it out until our fifth state has been called. So if I am saving this one, you will see that if I'm choosing Germany, this one will be cleared out until like our fetch state has been called, but we are still seeing this selected value. So for this, what you need to do is you'd also have to clear the last selected state because it is being dependent and the last selected state is just saved there. So you need to clear it whenever you are choosing a different country. So if we go over to our React app and I'm choosing something else, you can see that that one is cleared. Now nothing is selected. This one must be the first value. Show it is thereof it is showing, but nothing has been selected. So once you select something, the value would come. So yeah, this is just an example of a cascading drop down. You can actually play around and also like go to the city level, and it would just be another kind of like handle select method where in here you have to like call another kind of like fetch city method. You have to write something like this. So yeah, you can go on ahead and play with this. And yeah, so that would be it about this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another one.